from an ease of use standpoint, the main features that you use on a regular basis are all up on the screen. I'm going to actually change the background out again and change it back to just a blue background to make it a little bit easier to see. But this is nice to know that for each department, you can put your own logo, your own information, your own pictures if you want to, in the background, so it's kind of a nicety and another screen and another way to advertise and market for your department. So, but it's very easy for me to make a change as long as I know what my super secret 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 password is. All I have to do is change the background image, and I'll just change it back to Dawn Blue. And I think that will show better on the screen. So now you can actually read the wording underneath each of the icons. So far so good. So the two main things that a copier is supposed to do is pull things through and scan them in, and then have the output come out properly and consistently every single time. So there's two technologies that Toshiba's incorporated into the system itself. One is in the document feeder, and it's called double reversing roller technology. And basically what it is that there's a high friction roller on the top that pulls the paper in, and then there's a low friction roller on the bottom that pushes back the other direction. So if you stack a sheet of paper in there, you'll actually see the second page move back a little bit every single time so that it gets a good separation. So that means when you put in a page, or you put in 100 pages and they've been in a file folder before and they're all crinkled up and not necessarily the most pristine originals, they still pull through one at a time. And the other thing is, if you've taken a staple out of it, they kind of still want to hold up in the corner where that staple is, so it's nice to have that separation. So from a demonstration standpoint, I'm just going to simulate what happens if it tries to pull through two at a time by folding a piece of paper in half and setting it in the document feeder. So everything goes in the document feeder face up, and then I simply press the start button in order to make a copy of the image. Oh, first I have to choose what I want to do with it. Do I want to scan it, or do I want to copy it? So I'm going to make a simple copy. I was wondering why the start button wasn't working, and then press start. So I'm making a simple copy of it, and you can see that took that image, and it actually unfolded it and pulled it through the document feeder, and was able to make a copy of it. So even though that was folded up, it still unfolded it and pulled it through. Not that you're going to be feeding folded up copies of stuff to the document feeder, but it's nice to know that you have that level of reliability. Now, I imagine a lot of your departments now do almost as much scanning as you guys do copying anymore. So just by a quick show of hands, who would say that that's true, that you probably scan as many images as you even print out? And that's such a great way to be able to store those documents and keep them electronically and have a soft copy of them. So it's nice to see that the document feeder is going to hold up over the time frame that you guys have. So the other thing, of course, is the printing piece and being able to output through the heart of the system. So the technology that Toshiba uses for that, we use what's called transfer belt technology. And basically what it does is it uses the natural static between rubber and paper to pull the image through and kind of float it on a bed of air using the friction, instead of having to grab onto the edges and pull it through, which historically could cause problems, because if you're grabbing onto the edges, you can get them twisted and turned, and things don't necessarily flow through properly. So what I'm going to do is simulate a misfeed in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and this guy in. Then I'm going to remember this time to go ahead and do my simple copy so that I can press start. So it pulls it through, and what it's actually doing is it's just simply pulling it on a flat bed of air through the heart of the system. And even though I ripped that piece of paper up and crumpled it up, it still pulled it through and it still made a copy on it. So again, not that you're going to be feeding ripped up pieces of paper through the heart of your system, but that's just the higher level of reliability that it has. In fact, all of our systems are spec'd out to be able to pull 140-pound paper through the paper door. Again, not that you'll be doing that on a regular basis, but that's the level of engineering that we put into the system. Also, most of the competitive product that you're looking at has a 500-sheet paper door. And you think, okay, well, 500 sheets is a whole ream, so you can fit a whole ream in. basically designated ours to 550 sheets. So if it's not all the way empty, and when you put a ream of paper in it, you're not filling it to maximum capacity by putting in a whole ream. Because filling it to maximum capacity, I've seen a lot of offices where the first 50 pages are yanked off of each ream of paper in order to make sure that the first one feeds through right. So we over-engineered the paper drawer slightly as well. So those are the two things from a reliability standpoint that I always like to show off. And Toshiba's had this technology for a while now, so this is not anything new for us, having that high level of reliability in the system. So, any questions about the reliability piece before I move on to the customization and the security piece? Cool. All right. So customization. I know that you guys are looking at. So right now, do you badge into the copier when you go to the copier? Okay. Now, is each person's screen different, or is it a common screen once you badge in? Okay. So one of the things that we like about the Toshiba solution is we can actually, because your ID tags have your information about you on them, you can now go ahead and do some higher end things when customizing the system. So I'm assuming when you scan the email from your system right now and scan back to yourself, it shows up at like copier@policedepartment.com or whatever. As an advanced feature, if we choose to set it up this way, when you badge in and you send an email, it can actually come from you because it knows who you are as you're badging in. So it can go ahead and do that. If there are common jobs that you run all the time, like in the finance office, you scan the finance folders. You don't scan to every other folder in the whole place, and don't probably care to. So when you badge in, it can give you just the features that you want to see, just the scan paths that you normally utilize on the system. So it makes it very easy to be able to navigate. Now this is just the generic screen from factory default and pulling it up. So the generic screen has a couple different things on it. The first two things are just simple copy and simple scan. So simple copy is the one that I've been using so far. It pulls it up, you can change the number set, you can change black and white color, zoom it up and down stable, a lot of the basics, two-sided, the things that you use all the time. And now, you just tell it the number of copies, those basic things, press start and it rolls. If I press my home screen, it goes back to the home, and I can go to my copy screen now, and now I've got a lot more stuff I can do. This is how our screen used to look. So for anybody that has worked with one of the school districts that has these systems in it, this is the screen that Toshiba's had for 18 years at least, maybe longer than that. And it gives you some more functionality. Which paper drawer do I want to pull it from? Advanced finishing capability if I'm doing saddle stitching or some of the other higher end features that the system has capability of doing from the walk-up environment. So same thing when I'm doing my scanning. If I just want a simple scan, great. Select simple scan. I don't have my address book set up yet. But if I've got my address book set up, I simply click simple scan. I can change whether I want to scan it in color, whether I want PDF, whether I want Word, whatever I want to scan it into. Are most of y'all scanning, and do you have the ability to scan to Word right now? Okay. So it's interesting because I've always had the concept of the three programs I use most on my computer are Word, Excel, and PDF. I find it interesting that most of the other systems only scan to PDF. And that's not even one of the, really that's a kind of a distant third compared to what I normally use on a regular basis. So I find it very nice that the Toshiba can actually scan into the file formats that you actually use the most often. So, but if I go back to my simple copy, still my address book is there. But I can make all those main changes there, and then I can select my name from the address book, or if I'm sending directly to somebody that's not in the address book, I can enter in the email from the touchscreen. If I want to do some more advanced things, then I go to my advanced scanning. Now my advanced scanning is, I've got the scanned email in there, but I'm probably going to use my address book if I'm going to do that. I also have my scan to file. Scan to e-filing means I'm storing it on the hard drive of the copier and printing it back off on demand from the copier. Does anybody do that with their systems right now? Sometimes it's nice if people don't have access to a laptop, because they can actually, some of the key forms that you guys use on a regular basis can be stored on the copier, so all you have to do is walk up to the front of it, select e-filing, select the form you want to print, and press scan. But a lot of times it's easier just to scan it back to your computer, have it as a PDF on your computer, and open it up and click print. So it depends on if your employees, if you have some employees in the area that don't have access to sitting down at a desktop or a laptop, but still need access to forms or employee handbooks or applications, whatever, you can just simply store them on the system and print them off on demand. And then all of your scan to file, scan to server stuff, and then of course USB. Now USB is interesting, so it can be toggled off or on, depending on whether you want people to be able to walk up to the system, place a USB drive in it, scan information to the USB, and then pull out the USB and go. That works in reverse too. As long as it's a PDF, you can take the USB, you can plug it in and print directly from the USB. So it all depends on the security levels that you want to have there to have access to the
So it
system.
is a two-way, you take information off the drive and
Correct.
also pull.
Yes. So it's both ways. So, and I'll stipulate again that to scan it in, you can scan it in Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, or PDF. When retrieving, when you walk up to the system with your thumb drive, it has to be a PDF in order to be able to print it out. Because the system's not running Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel in the background, so it doesn't know how to open those documents. But any PDF document we walk up, put in, press start. The other thing that's kind of neat is I don't know if anybody uses their Google Drive or SharePoint or anything like that, but the system can have a button on it that says scan to Google Drive, scan to SharePoint, and can pull it off and drop it back in. So now you can pull some of the higher level documents and print them directly from here. So if you've got a Google Drive, you can look with your badge, you badge in, Google Drive already knows who you are, it's your Google Drive, you press the button, it's all your Google Drive documents and folders, open them up, click print. Same thing with scanning. It knows who you are, scan to Google Drive, drop something in, boom, it's on Google Drive. Same thing for SharePoint or any of the other ones that you utilize. So from that place, from a customizable standpoint, and the badging in becomes huge at that point in time because of all the information that can already be loaded into the system that you now have access to. So, and then you've got, I kept print up here because your question about taking the USB and plugging it in and being able to print, this is where you would go. You would go and you'd select print, you drop down to your USB. There's not a USB plugged in right now, so it won't give you that option. But if you plug a USB, this is where you would go to do it. So you just go print, drop down, USB, and it would pull up all the documents. And then faxing, they still are fax machines. Why there still are fax machines, I don't know, but there still are fax machines. So it works as both receiving fax and sending fax. It also has the capability of when a fax comes in, you can either forward it to an email or to a folder on the network so that you can have an electronic copy of it saved as well. Which, there's something still to, when a fax comes in, it should print out, in my humble opinion. Because there's something, like you want to be able to touch it. But the thing that happens is, you print it, you touch it, somebody takes it away in their pile of folder and now it's gone, and somebody says, yeah, I faxed that to you. If you're also storing it, now you know you can go back in and find that fax and double click and be like, either it did come or it didn't come, because I can see every single fax that came in, and that can be purged on a regular basis, and only the people that need to have access to that have access to it. But it is powerful. And then you can grab it and forward it to somebody else. So there's some nice things about that as well.
So the fax stores on the hard drive?
So it depends on where we want to send it. So I can, once the fax comes in, and the beauty of the systems, and Toshiba, I first got into the industry with Toshiba because they were a computer company. Back before that, it was always Canon, Minolta, Sharp, the people that would take photographs. Because that's what an old copier used to do, is take a photograph over and over and over the same image and then just regenerate it. So the photograph companies were great back in the day. But once you hang them on a network, and all of a sudden, really what it's doing is it's scanning the image in, storing it on a hard drive, and printing it back out, we're like, well, Toshiba's a computer company. That's what we do well, is the hard drive and the storage and the scanning and the retrieving. So from that standpoint, when that fax comes in, it really comes in as an electronic scan and gets stored on the hard drive for a second. and then it prints